GreenCape is a non-profit organization that drives the widespread adoption of economically viable green economy solutions from South Africa. They are working on a multi-stakeholder project with the financial support of the Green Climate Fund, implemented and managed by UNIDO. Focused on pipeline development to deploy clean energy technology solutions in Municipal Wastewater Treatment Works of South Africa, providing readiness activities for the Green Climate Fund. Ultimately, this project aims to support the utilization of climate finance in the Municipal Wastewater Treatment Works space, where energy efficient and renewable energy applications can assist. This Future Cities Africa episode is with Ashton Mpofu, expert analyst for water at GreenCape. We explore municipal due diligence requirements for energy efficiency and renewable energy at wastewater treatment works. Ashton, welcome. What are the current regulations and compliance standards regarding energy efficiency and renewable energy adoption in wastewater treatment works?
Looking into regulations, and standards, there is none as per se that municipalities should have, on energy efficiency and renewable energies. Mainly what we have as part of the wastewater treatment works is that during as part of their green drop reports or assessments, all wastewater treatment works must, report on their specific power consumption. So that's basically what we have at the moment. And most of the regulations really that we have, when it comes to energy efficiency and renewable energy integration, is mostly on other sectors, which is the private sector, residential, businesses, and things like that. So there is a lot that has been done in the country, elsewhere. I know that there is a part where we are actually supposed to be reporting on even greenhouse gas emissions, to the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment. But I don't think that is really being done at this point in time. But it's something that we, as a country, have got what you call a carbon bill that will be coming in shortly, as soon as it's passed in Parliament. That will then focus on asking each and every sector, including the water sector, to report on their greenhouse gas emissions, and also to tell us, or tell the world on how are we going to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. So at this point in time, to summarize just my response to the question, is the fact that we haven't done much on energy efficiency and renewable energy integration. In terms of the water sector, all we do is to ask the different treatment works as part of the green drop assessments to report on their specific power consumption. But I think there's areas of improvement. There's a lot that is happening in this space as we begin to feel the effects of climate change, and we begin to, move into using clean technologies and being, environmentally conscious about the activities that we do. So I think there will be a lot that will be happening in this space. That's why I think the purpose of the project, the UNIDO that we are doing, and I think from legislative point of view, there's quite a lot. I mean, one that I can shed light that I may have missed is the organic waste to landfill ban. So that's actually pushing wastewater treatment works to find solutions to waste management, solid waste management, rather than taking their solid waste into landfills. So those are some of the legislations. I mean, this one is mostly in the Western Cape. By 2027, 100% landfill ban. But we have a strategy as a country, in terms of trying to reduce, our energy consumption, or incorporating energy efficiencies within the water space. I mean, the strategy speaks into reducing by 20%, as the water sector for pumping and treatment. So we have a strategy, but in terms of being legislative and making it mandatory, I think there's still a gap. At the moment, we just have a strategy on how to reduce our energy consumption in the water sector.
Can you provide some examples of successful municipal projects that have implemented renewable energy sources in their wastewater treatment works? What were the key factors contributing to their success?
One that is widely known in South Africa is the biogas projects. We're talking about anaerobic digesters, anaerobic digestion as a technology. This has been widely adopted across the country. It's been decades ever since we built infrastructure for biogas production. I can name the likes of Cape Flats in Cape Town, the Treatment Works in KZN and Umgeni Water, or Umgeni Tugela now. We've got Northern Works as well, within Johannesburg Water. We've got quite a number, even in Mpumalanga as well, municipalities that do have anaerobic digesters. Umchindi, they have anaerobic digesters that are standing. Going to the Eastern Cape as well, there's quite a number of plants that really do have, the anaerobic digestion infrastructure of biogas digesters on site. Everett as well, Ekurhuleni, there's also digesters that are there. The only challenge that we have had in the past is the fact that some of them are currently lying idle. They've not been used, for various reasons they've failed. But initially, as a country, we really adopted biogas as solid waste management or wastewater sludge management, process or technology. Coming to other technologies as well, I know here in the city of Cape Town as well, Kraaifontein, I think they do have floating solar PVs. You go to Drakenstein, we have heard about the mini hydro projects, to produce electricity, where you pump into a highly elevated area. Then when you distribute into the system, you just install a mini turbine in a pipe, and then you're able to produce electricity. We have been slow when it comes to wind energy. I think has been a challenge. And currently, there's also new installations. Within I think the Eastern Cape, through the Water Research Commission, I think there's a mini hydro as well that was installed for a village on that end. And currently, I think as well, we saw the Department of Water and Sanitation releasing, a tender for hydro power plants within some of their infrastructure across the country. So I think there is a movement as well on that end. There are some technology that we have not touched at all, like wind power. It's not new to South Africa. We have got lots of wind farms. Back in the olden days, we used to have wind vanes for pumping groundwater, to the surface. But when it comes to the treatment works at the moment, we have not really embraced or adopted, wind power. But in terms of biogas, well-established technology. We still have got an opportunity to, revive them and get them running again. Talk about solar PVs, there's a space to adopt them. They've been well adopted, in other sectors, but in the water space, I think we're beginning to see installations, even on parking bays and things like that. But one amazing one, as I've mentioned, is that this is a floating solar one that is within the Kraaifontein Treatment Works. Yeah, I think these are few that we have had, but as I conclude my remarks, I keep on saying that there's still room, for improvement and more adoption of these technologies.
What are the key challenges that municipalities typically face when looking to enhance their energy efficiency and incorporate renewable energy solutions within the wastewater treatment works?
I think some of the challenges, is quite diverse. We are faced with a very complex, challenge as the sector, and bringing in energy efficiency or renewable energy becomes secondary to the primary role of the wastewater treatment works. Their role is to treat water to a certain quality standard that meets environmental discharge. And then if we now move on to look into, incorporating energy efficiency and renewable energies, the first one is the fact that it's not really, the core mandate of a treatment works. Number two, there's quite a challenge in the water sector at the moment. You look into the green drop reports that tell you about, the lack of capacity across the country. We do not have enough capacity in terms of technical skills. Some of the digesters, as I mentioned in my previous answer, we have been told that, it's due to lack of maintenance and technical skills on site, to man some of these technologies that we are discussing today. Thirdly, I think is the issue of finances. So some may argue that, to say that we do not have funding or financing, to implement these technologies, I think it still stands that, there is always a need for finance. And we're doing a lot as a sector to look into plan finance and different procurement models that may promote, private sector coming on board and helping the municipal space to incorporate, energy efficiency and renewable energy projects. But finance remains a challenge. You speak to the municipalities, one of the things that they've flagged is the issue of finances. And number three, I think is knowledge as well. Are we aware about energy efficiency and the feasibility of us incorporating renewable energy? within the treatment work. So that's a very, very big question, and it's quite important that we go out and educate, and share the goodness, of being energy efficient and incorporating renewable energy, the projects within treatment works. And maybe lastly, we have been told and we have seen that sometimes, procurement methods or the way we look at the FMA, it becomes a challenge as well because we're looking at procuring for 3 years, and looking at, technologies, at the capex level. While if you look at some of these projects, they've got very good life cycle costs. But in a tender process, we just look at capex. So if your capex is lower, then you go first. So say you are procuring pumps, for example. There's an energy efficient pump, but the first thing that you look at, in tendering is to say, what's the capital cost of that particular pump? Even if the other one has got, life cycle savings over time, it becomes cheaper. But the first hand, when evaluating tenders, we just look at the capex cost. So there's quite a number, but the main one really, I must say, is the fact that our treatment works are not doing very well at the moment. I mean, the issue of capacity, so we're in a dire state. Some of them not function at all, and then some of them is due to negligence, lack of maintenance, lack of investment in repairing and doing all sorts of things in the treatment works. Some of them, I mean, it's due to unfortunate events, like what happened in KZN, it's due to flooding, and all the plants have been swept away. So really, you come back now, the main thing that you'll be looking at, I mean, even look at the CleanDrop reports, is to restore the plant to treat water before you start thinking about, big projects like, biogas and things like that. But I've always been vocal to say that there's always an opportunity to build back better. Even if you are restoring a dysfunctional plant, there's an opportunity to start incorporating energy efficiency. If we are putting new pumps, please procure energy efficient pumps. You're looking at buying, blowers and aerators. Please make sure that you procure, energy efficient ones. But that needs awareness, because when you go out to procure, you need to be aware that there is energy efficient technologies out there. So awareness still plays a role. I mean, it's the primary thing that we talk about, that citizens or the practitioners within the water sector must be aware, about these technologies and possibilities.
You've mentioned finance as a big challenge. Are there any financing or grant opportunities available to municipalities to assist them in this process?
So the first one, of course, is grant funding that comes from our own, government through the revenue bill, through the DWS. We have got, different grants, the like of, water services infrastructure grant. We have got regional bulk infrastructure grant. There's quite a number of these grants that come through the Department of Water and Sanitation to municipalities. Of course, they are meant for infrastructure, but we are allowed to look at procuring innovative, technologies or innovative solutions. So there is an opportunity, to use some of these grants to venture into energy efficient, projects, and also even if you are restoring your plant, I mean, you ring fence your finances, but you focus, and plan that with doing so, we're really going to focus on energy efficiency, as a municipality. Number two, we do have the energy efficiency demand side management grant, through the MRE and SANEDI and others. I mean, that has been there for quite some time and is still running. And it's meant for municipalities, to venture into energy efficiency or demand side management projects. So, I mean, it's an opportunity, but we just ask ourselves whether, are you aware about this grant? How many people have applied for it? What are the hurdles or the bottlenecks, to access, such funding? So that's a big question mark, So it may be that we need to capacitate municipalities, for them to be able to plan and be able to, apply, to access such funding. Number three, I think, I touched on also that there are a lot of other climate, funding that is coming into the space that is focusing really on reducing greenhouse gas emissions. I mean, on this project, UNIDO are looking at GCF, as a financier to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So there are other examples of climate funding, climate finance that is coming to the space that can be accessed, by municipalities. But we must tune our thinking towards, greenhouse gas emission mitigation to access such funding. You cannot just access it by merely saying we are focusing on energy efficiency or renewable energy projects, but it must be coined in such a manner that is applicable, to access climate finance. And then the fourth one, of course, is banks. Commercial banks are funding different energy efficiency projects or renewable energy projects. Though that funding may really be available for limited municipalities. Looking at the issues of creditworthiness and the challenges that municipalities have with their balance sheets, and revenue collections and so forth. So at the moment, we may say that only a few metropolitan municipalities can really access commercial loans from our banks locally. And then thirdly, of course, there is donor funding. There are a couple of donors, or development finance institutions that do have facilities for such projects. So it's just a matter of being aware that there is funding available for some of these things, and we need to tune ourselves as municipalities to be able to access it. But there's quite a number of examples, even in the past, and some examples that have been achieved by other municipalities to access this funding.
Ashton, in closing, how can municipalities effectively assess the economic feasibility and long term benefits of investing in energy efficient and renewable energy solutions at wastewater treatment works?
Yeah, it comes forth to planning. We need to plan some of these projects ahead of time, incorporate them in our planning phases, whether it's IDPs or WSTPs. We plan them, to say we would like to venture into these projects in the near future. But most importantly, like they've asked me now, is to really assess whether it's technically feasible or economically feasible as a municipality. So the first one is to do what we refer to as an energy audit, whether level one or a detailed one. Just go through the plant. This is what we've been doing to capacitate different treatment works or practitioners to be able to do it, level one energy audit. Start from the entrance where your wastewater enters the plant to the point where you discharge it back into the environment and say, where can we save energy, and where are we using more energy? So the fact of knowing your specific power consumption, then we know, which areas are culprits, which areas are energy intensive. So municipalities must, venture into energy audits across the plant, and then sit down and plan to say, can we start maybe with replacing pumps? Can we, maybe not the issue of replacing, but repairing them and ensuring that they are working optimally? Can we look into optimizing the whole plant, scheduling or, peak shaving and all these other different mechanisms of promoting energy efficiency. So this is some of, the things that must be done. But most importantly for me, is the energy level audits. From there, you look into the finances, to say, where will this money come from? Are we going to put aside the grant funding coming from government, to probably venture or implement some of these projects. So first, technically, you discover, where the areas, then next you say, where will the money come from? Do you have money as a municipality, as the treatment works to venture into, renewable energy project or energy efficiency projects? Yes or no? If not, where are the other financiers? Who's there out there in the space that can, help with, this kind of financing? So it begins forth with you understanding the technical feasibility, and then economic feasibility becomes a secondary measure to say, if we decide to fund it ourselves, is it feasible? What's the break-even point? Things like that. So we need to check, the balance sheet. Can we approach the banks? Can us approach climate financiers? Can we apply for grants that are out there? The EEDSM, is it something that you can apply to? But some of these things, when you approach, financiers, or even, through grant funding, these things must be in your plan. You must see the water services development plan that the municipality or the treatment works have really planned for a project to promote energy efficiency or renewable energy. So yeah, there's a lot that can be said in the space, but for me, I would like to say we need to do techno-economic feasibility studies. Even using consultants, can call consultants to come through, pay them to do the work. But looking at the limited funding that we have, we would like municipalities to do this by themselves. So we need enhanced training, to come through and educate or train or build capacity in the treatment waste to say, do this by yourself. Just a level 1 energy audit. Don't need to be detailed, but just to know where most of the energy is being used. Then we start to plan from there to say, what's next? Where can we save? What can be procured? What can be done? Wait. Is there money for this? Yes or no? If it's not there, where is it going to come from? Are we looking? Let's be honest to ourselves. That my probably as a municipality, audit service report tells me that we have a disclaimer or we've got outstanding audit outcomes. So you know that you can't approach a commercial bank because how do you pay back? So you have to be honest to yourself to say, okay, looking at us, gentlemen or ladies in the room, or as colleagues, we are likely to get funding, through grants or through donor funding. Let's forget about loans. We're still owing or we're not credit worthy. So you have to be honest to yourself. So for those that have got good credit worthiness, they've got a good balance sheet, they've got paying, users and things like that, then they can approach commercial banks, because they've proven that they can pay back. But for others, don't even think about that. Don't even walk, that direction. Just look to say, who's in the space who's willing to donor? Who's in the space who's just willing to, give us funding, to implement these things without us needing to pay back. Concessional loans, developmental finance. You look into those things, yeah. But it's very important first to do your technical, feasibility, then economic feasibility as well comes secondary. Then from there on, we know what steps to take, and we plan, to implement these projects. But it's quite possible, but feasibility studies are quite important, yeah.
Thank you for this insightful conversation, Ashton. This episode is part of a 3-episode series. Make sure to check out the rest of the series on Future Cities Africa.